Jake Morrison stood in the center of the great council chamber and felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes watching him. The massive room stretched high above his head like a cathedral built for giants. Crystalline beings that looked like walking diamonds sat next to creatures with too many arms and others that floated in tanks of blue liquid. They all had one thing in common. They looked at Jake like he was something they had stepped on by mistake. The human ambassador held a datapad in his steady hands. Inside that small device was information that could save billions of lives across the galaxy. He had traveled here from Earth with proof of a threat so terrible that entire star systems would disappear if the Council did not act soon, but Jake already knew they would not listen. This was the third time he had come before them with the same warning. Each time they had turned him away like a child telling scary stories. Speaker Zethkar rose from his crystal throne at the front of the chamber. The alien leader was 12 feet tall and made of living diamond that caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. When he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking glass mixed with wind chimes. "Human Morrison," he said in the universal language that all council members used. "You return again with your tales of doom? We have told you before that your species sees danger where none exists." Jake lifted his datapad and activated the holographic display. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared in the air above. His head, red dots marked dozens of star systems at the edge of known space. "Honorable Speaker, these readings are not tales. Our deep space sensors have detected massive gravitational disturbances moving toward Council space. The energy signatures match nothing in our databases. Whatever is coming, it has already consumed 17 solar systems." A creature that looked like a giant insect clicked its mandibles together in what Jake knew was laughter. "You're primitive. Sensors cannot distinguish between natural cosmic events and the threats you imagine," it said. "The human mind is wired for paranoia. It is why your species spent thousands of years fighting wars on your home planet." Other council members made sounds of agreement. Some drummed tentacles on their seats while others flashed colors across their skin. Jake had learned to read these signs during his 5 years as Earth's ambassador. They were not just dismissing his warnings, they were mocking him. Dr. Allen Cooper sat in the viewing gallery behind Jake. The chief scientist from Earth's Deep Space Research Division had come to provide technical support for the presentation. Allen's hands gripped the railing as he watched the council treat their warning like a joke. He had spent 2 years analyzing the data that Jake was trying to share. The numbers were clear and terrifying. Something was coming toward them that could destroy everything they had built. General Ryan Blake sat next to Allen with his jaw clenched tight. The military leader had wanted to bring a fleet of human warships to make their point clear. But the council had rules against showing weapons during diplomatic meetings, so he could only sit and watch as creatures who had never fought a real war dismissed the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. Engineer Kate Sullivan checked her tablet one more time. She had triple-checked every calculation and run the data through dozens of different analysis programs. The results never changed. The gravitational waves moving toward them could only mean one thing. Something massive was eating stars and planets as it traveled through space. She looked up at Jake and gave him a small nod. The data was solid. Speaker Zethkar waved one of his crystal arms and the holographic display disappeared. "We have heard enough of this nonsense," he announced. "The council has real problems to solve: trade disputes between the vegan merchants and the Altair colonies, territorial arguments over mining rights in the Centauri sector. We cannot waste time on human nightmares." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had known this would happen, but had hoped he might be wrong. "Speaker Zethkar, I ask you to reconsider. Our scientists have never been wrong about threats like this. We detected the Kepler Nebula collapse 6 months before it happened. We warned about the solar flares that damaged the communications array in the beta sector. Every prediction we have made has come true." The crystal being's surface grew brighter as his anger increased. "Your species has contributed nothing but chaos since joining our union 2 decades ago. You bring weapons where we seek peace. you prepare for wars that do not exist. These fabricated threats are just another attempt to gain military funding and expand your fleet. Jake looked around the chamber one last time. He saw the same expression on every alien face, boredom mixed with irritation. They did not just disbelieve him. They actively hated the idea that humans might know something they did not. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years before Earth had developed space travel. In their minds, humans were still primitive children who should be grateful for being allowed to join their club. Very well, Jake said quietly. He turned off his datapad and placed it in his jacket pocket. I have delivered Earth's final warning. What you choose to do with it is your decision. He walked toward the exit with slow and careful steps. Alan, Ryan, and Kate followed behind him in complete silence. None of them looked back at the council members who were already moving on to discuss grain shipments and tax rates. As the doors closed behind them, Jake pulled out his secure communicator and sent a single coded message to Earth. Protocol Exodus is now active. Admiral Frank Turner was eating breakfast in his private quarters aboard the human flagship Defiance when the message came through. The scrambled transmission took only seconds to decode, but Frank read it 3 times to be sure. Protocol Exodus meant exactly what it sounded like. After 20 years of working with the Galactic Council, humanity was going home. Frank set down his coffee cup and activated the ship's internal communication system. All department heads report to the bridge. Immediately, this is not a drill. He walked through the corridors of his ship and noticed how quiet everything had become. The crew members he passed looked at him with questions in their eyes, but nobody spoke. They all knew that something big was happening. The bridge of the Defiance buzzed with activity as officers took their positions. Captain Lisa Hayes stood at the tactical station studying star charts that showed the positions of every human ship in Council space. There were over 3,000 vessels scattered across 40 star systems. Military ships, cargo haulers, passenger transports, research vessels, and mining platforms. Getting them all home without raising suspicion would be the largest coordination effort in human history. Captain Hayes, Frank said as he took his command chair. Send secure communications to all human fleet commanders. Operation Going Home begins now. All ships are to begin immediate withdrawal to Rally Point Alpha. No questions asked, no delays permitted. Lisa nodded and began transmitting the coded orders. Across the galaxy, human ship captains received their instructions and began making preparations to leave. They had trained for this possibility, but nobody had really believed it would happen. The idea that humans would voluntarily abandon their place in galactic civilization seemed impossible just a few hours ago. On Kepler Station, Commander Beth Parker watched the morning shift change through the observation windows of her office. The massive space station orbited a blue giant star and served as the main trading hub for 17 different star systems. Ships from dozens of alien species docked here every day to exchange goods, information, and diplomatic messages. Half of the station's crew was human, and the other half came from 12 different worlds. Beth's desk computer chimed with an incoming priority message. She read the orders twice and then leaned back in her chair. Protocol Exodus meant shutting down the entire human section of Kepler Station and evacuating 20,000 people without telling anyone why. The alien traders and diplomats would wake up tomorrow to find that their human partners had simply vanished. She activated her command console and began issuing evacuation orders to her department heads. This is Commander Parker. All human personnel ought to report to their emergency stations immediately. Begin shutdown procedures for all systems under human control. Civilian families will board the first transport ships. Essential personnel will remain until final evacuation. Dr. Sam Rodriguez received his orders while working in the Joint Research Laboratory on Titan 7. The facility housed the most advanced scientific equipment in Council space, and Sam's team had spent 5 years developing new technologies that could revolutionize space travel. Their breakthrough work on quantum mechanics and energy manipulation had the potential to change everything. Humans understood about physics. Sam looked around the laboratory at his mixed team of human and alien scientists. They had worked together so closely that species differences had become meaningless. The Altarian physicist Dr. Kelter was like a brother to him. The crystalline mathematician Zephion had a sense of humor that always made Sam laugh. Leaving them behind felt like abandoning his own family, but Sam had his orders. He began the process of downloading all human research data onto portable storage devices, while his team thought he was just backing up their work. The most sensitive information would be completely erased from the laboratory computers. 20 years of human scientific advancement would disappear as if it had never existed. Colony. Administrator Grace Williams stood on the observation deck of the government building in New Terra's capital city. 2 million human colonists lived on this world that they had spent 30 years terraforming into a paradise. They had built cities, planted forests, and created a civilization that was the envy of the galaxy. The alien populations on New Terra lived in harmony with their human neighbors, and together they had created something beautiful. Grace's secure communicator buzzed with the evacuation orders from Earth. She had 48 hours to organize the complete withdrawal of every human citizen on New Terra. The logistics were staggering. They would need hundreds of transport ships to move that many people plus all the equipment and supplies they could carry. She activated the planetary emergency broadcast system. Attention all human residents of New Terra. This is Administrator Williams with an important announcement. Due to emergency conditions, all human citizens are ordered to report to their designated evacuation points within 24 hours. Bring only essential personal items. Transportation will be provided. The announcement sent shock waves through every human community on the planet. Families who had lived on New Terra for generations began packing their belongings with tears in their eyes. Children who had never seen Earth asked their parents why they had to leave the only home they had ever known. Meanwhile, the alien residents of New Terra watched in confusion and growing alarm as their human neighbors prepared to abandon the world they had all built together. Nobody could understand what was happening or why the humans were leaving so suddenly. All across council space, the same scene played out on dozens of worlds and hundreds of space stations. Humans quietly packed their lives into cargo containers and boarded ships bound for Earth. They left behind homes, businesses, and friendships that had taken decades to build. Most importantly, they left behind their alien colleagues with no explanation and no promise that they would ever return. The great human withdrawal had begun. 3 months had passed since the last human transport ship disappeared into hyperspace, and Council Intelligence Officer Veltar still could not understand what had happened. The Altarian female sat at her workstation in the deep space monitoring center and stared at star charts that showed empty systems where human colonies used to exist. Every attempt to contact Earth had failed. The humans had simply vanished as if they had never existed. Veltar's job was to watch for threats coming from outside council space. She monitored gravitational sensors, analyzed energy readings, and tracked the movement of unknown objects in the void between galaxies. It was usually boring work because nothing ever happened in the empty regions beyond the galactic rim. But today her screens showed something that made her stomach turn cold with fear. The gravitational wave detectors had picked up massive disturbances moving through space toward the outer council systems. The readings were unlike anything in the database. Veltar had seen the signatures of exploding stars, colliding black holes, and every other cosmic disaster that could generate gravitational waves. This was different. The waves came in organized patterns that suggested intelligent control rather than natural phenomena. She ran the data through the analysis computer 3 times and got the same result every time. Something huge was moving through space in the exact location where the humans had said their threat was coming from. Veltar felt a chill run down her spine as she remembered Ambassador Morrison's warnings 3 months ago. The council had dismissed his presentation as human paranoia, but now their own sensors were confirming everything he had said. Veltar expanded her search and began looking at older data from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. What she found made her hands shake as she typed her report. The gravitational disturbances had been building for over a year. They started as small ripples at the very edge of detectable range and had been growing stronger as they moved closer to Council space. The pattern was exactly what the human ambassador had predicted. She pulled up the archive recordings of Morrison's presentation to the Council and listened to his words again. Our deep space sensors have detected massive gravitational disturbances moving toward Council space. The energy signatures match nothing in our databases. Whatever is coming, it has already consumed 17 solar systems. The Council had laughed at him. They had called his data primitive and unreliable, but now their own advanced sensors were detecting the same phenomenon, and the readings were far worse than anything Morrison had described. The gravitational waves suggested something that was consuming entire star systems and converting their mass into energy for propulsion. Veltar activated her emergency communication link to Council headquarters. The priority channel connected her directly to the office of Director Morden, the highest-ranking intelligence official in the galaxy. The blue-skinned Rigelian appeared on her screen within seconds. Officer Veltar, this channel is reserved for critical threats only. What is your report? Veltar's voice trembled as she spoke. Director, I have confirmed the existence of massive hostile entities approaching Council space from the galactic rim. The gravitational signatures indicate biomechanical constructs of unprecedented size moving in coordinated formation. Estimated arrival time at the outer systems is 6 months. Director Morden's face went pale. Are you certain of this data? Yes, sir. The readings match the predictions made by human Ambassador Morrison 3 months ago. The entities appear to be consuming stellar matter as they travel. 17 star systems in their path have gone dark over the past year. The director closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead with one hand. Transmit all your data to my office immediately. Do not discuss this information with anyone else until further notice. The communication link closed, and Veltar was left alone with the terrifying knowledge that the humans had been right all along. She began preparing her complete report while her mind raced with the implications. The creatures approaching Council space were unlike anything they had ever faced. The humans had called them the Void Swarm, and the name seemed appropriate. They moved through space like a plague of cosmic locusts, devouring everything in their path. 2 hours later, Veltar received orders to report to an emergency meeting of the Council Security Committee. She gathered her data files and traveled to the highest level of the Council building, where only the most senior officials were allowed. The meeting room was filled with military commanders, intelligence directors, and scientific advisors from every major species in the galaxy. Director Morden stood at the front of the room beside a massive holographic display showing the galactic rim. Red markers indicated the positions where star systems had been destroyed, and yellow arrows showed the projected path of the approaching threat. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, we face the greatest crisis in Council history. Long-range sensors have confirmed the existence of hostile entities that have already destroyed multiple star systems. Our analysis suggests these creatures operate as a collective intelligence with the ability to consume stellar matter and convert it into biological mass. General Thuxran of the Hegemony military forces stood up from his seat. How reliable is this intelligence? Are we certain this is not some natural phenomenon? Veltar activated her workstation and projected her analysis onto the main display. The gravitational patterns show clear signs of artificial control. The entities move in perfect formation and change direction in ways that violate orbital mechanics. They are definitely under intelligent guidance. What do we know about their capabilities? Asked Admiral Krishen of the Altarian fleet. Based on the energy readings, each individual entity is approximately the size of a small moon. They travel in swarms of several hundred units and appear to be able to break down matter at the molecular level. When they encounter a planet or star, they literally consume it and add the mass to their own structure. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. These were not just raiders or conquerors. They were an extinction-level threat that could devour the entire galaxy. If left unchecked, Director Morden cleared his throat. There is one more thing you all need to know. 3 months ago, human Ambassador Morrison brought this exact threat to the Council's attention. He provided detailed sensor data and warned us that these entities were approaching our space. The Council dismissed his warnings as human paranoia. The silence in the room became even more profound. Everyone present had either voted to ignore the human warnings or had remained silent while others did so. Now they faced the consequences of their arrogance. Council Director Morden stood in the empty control room of what used to be Earth's primary communication station and felt the weight of his species' failure pressing down on him. The massive facility orbited Jupiter and had served as the main link between humanity and the rest of the galaxy for over 20 years. Now it was as silent as a tomb, with only automated systems humming in the darkness. "Director, we have checked every system on the station," reported Captain Ulrex, a reptilian officer from the Council's fastest pursuit ship. "The humans evacuated everything. They took all the data cores, all the personal items, even the plants. From the recreation areas, it is like they were never here." Morden walked through the corridors where human diplomats and technicians had once worked alongside alien colleagues. The walls still showed the outline marks where pictures and decorations had hung. Someone had carefully removed every trace of human presence without damaging the station itself. It was evacuation so thorough and professional that it seemed almost respectful. "Have you found any indication of where they went?" Morden asked. "None, sir. They erased all navigation logs and wiped the computer memory banks clean. The quantum signature trails from their ships lead in 17 different directions and then disappear completely. It would take years to follow them all." Morden activated his communicator and sent a message on all human frequencies. "This is Council Director Morden calling any human vessels or colonies. Please respond immediately. We have urgent information to share regarding the threat you warned us about. We acknowledge that your predictions were correct, and we need to discuss coordinated defense strategies." The only answer was static. Ambassador Krishan stood on the bridge of her diplomatic vessel as it approached the coordinates where New Terra should have been. The blue and green world had been one of the most beautiful planets in Council space, with cities that blended seamlessly into the natural landscape. Human colonists had spent 30 years turning a dead rock into a paradise that was home to 2 million people from a dozen different species. Now, there was nothing but empty space and a few abandoned orbital platforms. "Are you certain these are the correct coordinates?" Krishan asked her navigation officer. "Yes, Ambassador. New Terra should be directly ahead of us. But the sensors show no planetary mass of any kind." Krishan stared at the empty space through the bridge windows. The humans did not just evacuate the planet, they moved the entire world somewhere else. Her science officer looked up from his instruments with confusion written across his face. "That should be impossible, Ambassador. Moving a planet would require technology far beyond anything in our databases. The energy requirements alone would be enormous." "Then we have seriously underestimated human capabilities," Krishan said quietly. She activated the ship's long-range communicators and began broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Ambassador Krishan of the Altarian Republic calling any human vessels in this system. We are not here as conquerors or investigators. We come seeking help against the threat that is approaching Council space. Please respond if you can hear this message." Her words echoed into the void without reply. Captain Ulrex pushed his ship's engines to maximum power as he followed quantum signatures through the Kepler Nebula. The trail was 3 months old, but his vessel had the most advanced tracking systems in the Council fleet. Somewhere ahead of him was the human transport convoy that had evacuated the mining colonies in this sector. The chase had taken him through 7 star systems and past a dozen asteroid fields. Every time he thought he was getting close, the trail would split into multiple paths or simply vanish at the edge of sensor range. It was like chasing ghosts that knew exactly how to stay one step ahead of their pursuers. "Captain, I am detecting massive structure ahead," his sensor officer reported. "It appears to be some kind of space station hidden inside the nebula." Ulrex felt hope surge through his chest. "Are there any human life signs?" "Negative, sir. The station appears to be completely automated, but I am reading extensive communication equipment and data storage systems. They docked with the station and found it filled with the most advanced technology Yulrex had ever seen. The computers contained detailed star charts showing safe passage routes through areas that Council ships had never been able to navigate. There were research files on energy manipulation techniques that would revolutionize space travel. Most importantly, there were tactical analysis reports that showed defensive strategies against threats from outside the galaxy, but there were no humans anywhere. On the station, Yulrex activated the main communication array and sent a message toward the center of the galaxy where Earth was located. This is Captain Yulrex of the Council Fleet calling Earth Command. We have found your research station in the Kepler Nebula. We know you are listening to our communications. The void swarm that you warned us about is real and it is coming. Please respond so we can discuss working together to stop this threat. The communication system activated and a computer voice responded in perfect Council standard language. This is an automated message from the Earth Defense Network. All diplomatic relations between humanity and the Galactic Council have been permanently terminated. No further communication will be accepted. Please remove your vessel from this facility immediately. Yulrex tried to override the automated system but found that the computers would not accept any input from non-human sources. The station had been programmed to share its advanced technology only with authorized human personnel. Can you at least tell us how to contact your government? He asked desperately. All information regarding human operations is classified. Please remove your vessel from this facility immediately or defensive systems will activate. Speaker Zethkar stood in his private chambers and composed what he knew might be the most important message of his 3,000-year life. The crystal being had ruled the Council for centuries and had never admitted making a mistake about anything, but now he faced the complete destruction of galactic civilization if he could not find a way to contact the humans. My fellow humans, he began, then stopped and started over. Citizens of Earth and her colonies, this is Speaker Zethkar of the Galactic Council. I am transmitting this message on all frequencies in the hope that someone will hear it and respond. 3 months ago, your Ambassador Morrison came before the Council with warnings about a threat approaching from the galactic rim. We dismissed his warnings as the product of human paranoia and fear. We were wrong. Zethkar paused and stared at the holographic display showing the approaching void swarm. Our own sensors have now confirmed everything that Ambassador Morrison told us. Massive biomechanical entities are moving toward Council space and they have already consumed multiple star systems. We calculate that they will reach the outer colonies in less than 4 months. We do not have the military technology or tactical knowledge to stop them. He took what passed for a deep breath among his species. We acknowledge that we treated humanity with arrogance and disrespect. We failed to recognize the value of your contributions to galactic security. We made the mistake of believing that our ancient wisdom was superior to your innovative thinking. We were wrong about everything, and now we need your help to save billions of innocent lives. The message was transmitted to every human frequency and broadcast toward every system where humans had ever lived. But like all the others, it disappeared into the void without any response. The humans had not just left Council space. They had cut all ties with the galaxy that had rejected them. Please, Zethkar whispered into his empty chambers. If there is any forgiveness in your species, please help us. We cannot face this alone. But the only answer was silence. General Thuxrun stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the impossible happen. The most powerful military fleet in Council history was being destroyed by creatures that should not have been able to exist. His tactical displays showed the complete annihilation of the 7th Fleet happening in real time, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The Void Swarm had arrived 6 months after the humans disappeared, and their first contact with Council forces was a disaster beyond imagination. The biomechanical entities moved through space like a living storm cloud, each one the size of a small moon but able to change shape and direction with the speed of a fighter craft. When they encountered the patrol ships at the edge of the hegemony, territory. The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes. "General, the flagship Dominator has gone silent," reported his communications officer. The last transmission indicated that the bioentities were somehow absorbing the ship's hull material and converting it into additional mass. Thuxran watched his tactical screen as another red dot disappeared from the display. The Dominator had been the pride of the Hegemony fleet, a massive dreadnought with enough firepower to destroy a planet. Against the Void Swarm, it might as well have been made of paper. What about the research vessel Curiosity? Did they manage to collect any useful data before they were destroyed? Yes, sir, they transmitted their findings to our databases before the bioentities consumed them. The analysis is disturbing. These creatures appear to learn and adapt in real time. Every weapon we used against them became less effective after the first few shots. By the end of the battle, they had developed complete immunity to our most advanced energy weapons. Thuxran felt ice forming in his stomach. How is that possible? The bioentities seemed to share information instantaneously across their entire swarm. When one of them encounters a new threat, all of them immediately develop countermeasures. They are not just individual creatures. They function as parts of a single collective intelligence. The general looked at the star charts showing the projected path of the Void Swarm through Council space. At their current rate of advance, they would reach the core worlds in less than 4 months. Every planet and space station in their path would be consumed completely, leaving nothing but empty space behind. "Send word to all Council military commanders," Thuxran ordered. "Emergency session tomorrow. We need to coordinate our remaining forces before these creatures spread across the entire galaxy." Dr. Veltar sat in the emergency meeting of the Council's top military and scientific leaders and listened to report after report of complete disaster. The creature attacks had spread to 7 different systems in the past week. Every attempt to fight them had ended the same way: total destruction of Council forces with 0 damage to the bioentities. "The creatures appear to be made of some kind of programmable matter," reported Chief Scientist Kelter from his analysis station. "They can restructure their molecular composition to adapt to any threat. Energy weapons are absorbed and converted into additional mass. Kinetic weapons pass through them harmlessly. Even nuclear explosives seem to feed them rather than damage them." Admiral Cretan raised her hand. "What about the tactical data we recovered from the Human Research Station? Did their files contain any information about fighting these entities?" Veltar activated her workstation and displayed the data she had been studying for weeks. "The human files are extensive, but they are also encrypted with security codes that we cannot break. We can access basic information about the creatures' behavior patterns, but all the tactical analysis and defensive strategies are locked behind barriers that our computer experts cannot penetrate." "Why would the humans encrypt military data when they knew we might need it?" asked General Thuxran. "Because they probably expected us to ask for their help rather than trying to steal their research," Admiral Cretan said quietly. "The encryption is designed to prevent unauthorized access. We would need human authorization codes to unlock the tactical files." Director Morden stood up from his seat at the head of the table. "We have sent hundreds of diplomatic messages to every location where humans might be hiding. We have broadcast apologies and requests for help on every frequency they ever used. We have even sent envoys to Earth's solar system only to find that the entire system has been moved to a different location. The humans are not ignoring us because they have not received our messages. They are ignoring us because they choose to do so." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity possessed the knowledge and technology needed to fight the Void Swarm, but they had deliberately placed it beyond Council reach. The species that the Council had dismissed as primitive warmongers were the only ones who had prepared for this exact threat. "What do our computer models suggest will happen if we cannot stop the Void Swarm?" asked Speaker Zethkar, Chief Scientist. Kelter activated a holographic projection of the galaxy and began running the simulation. Red markers appeared at the edge of Council space and began spreading inward like a disease. At their current consumption rate, The bioentities will devour approximately 60% of all inhabited systems within the next 2 years. The remaining populations will be trapped in isolated pockets with no way to escape or resupply. Total galactic civilization collapse is estimated within 5 years. The projection showed entire star systems winking out of existence as the red tide of destruction swept across the galaxy. Worlds that had been home to billions of people for thousands of years simply disappeared from the map. The Great Trade. Networks that connected hundreds of species crumbled as the communication lines were cut. Ancient civilizations that had survived for millions of years faced complete extinction. Is there any possibility that the bioentities will stop their advance once they have consumed a certain amount of matter? Asked Admiral Krishan hopefully. Negative. The creatures appear to be driven by an insatiable hunger for organic and inorganic matter. They will continue consuming until there is nothing left to consume. Based on their behavior patterns, they likely evolved in a galaxy that they have already completely devoured. Speaker Zethkar's crystal surface dimmed to a dark gray as the full scope of their situation became clear. So we face complete extinction unless we can convince the humans to help us. But the humans have made it clear that they will not respond to our diplomatic overtures. Does anyone have suggestions for alternative approaches? General Thuxran leaned forward in his chair. What if we sent a delegation to Earth to make our request in person? It would be difficult to ignore ambassadors who traveled directly to their homeworld. We tried that approach, Director Morden replied. The ships we sent to Earth's coordinates found empty space. Either they moved their entire solar system to a new location, or they were never located where we thought they were. Our navigation data for Earth may have been deliberately falsified from the beginning. The meeting continued for several more hours, but no solutions emerged. The Council's greatest minds could not think of any way to contact a species that had deliberately severed all ties with galactic civilization. The humans had the knowledge to save everyone, but they had also made sure that no one could force them to share it. As the delegates prepared to return to their ships and spread the terrible news to their home governments, each of them understood that they were probably witnessing the beginning of the end. The Galactic Council had ruled for 3,000 years, but that reign was about to come to a very final conclusion. The reckoning for their arrogance had begun, and it would consume everything they had ever built. Speaker Zethkar stood alone in the great council chamber and prepared to send what he knew would be the last message of his civilization. The massive room that had once buzzed with the voices of hundreds of alien diplomats was now empty except for automated systems and emergency lighting. Most of the council members had fled to their homeworlds to spend their final days with their families. Through the great windows, Zethkar could see the glow of burning space stations in the distance. The void swarm had reached the core systems 3 days ago, and the destruction was spreading faster than anyone had predicted. The biomechanical entities consumed matter at an exponential rate, growing larger and hungrier with every system they devoured. Computer, activate galaxy-wide emergency broadcast system, Zethkar commanded. Emergency broadcast system online. All communication networks across Council space are now connected to this transmission. Zethkar looked directly into the recording device and began what might be the final words ever spoken by a member of the Galactic Council. This is Speaker Zethkar broadcasting to any human vessels or colonies that may be receiving this signal. Our civilization is ending. The void swarm has consumed 47 star systems in the past month, and there is nothing we can do to stop them. He paused and watched another star system disappear from the tactical displays behind him. We dismissed your warnings because we believed our ancient wisdom was superior to your young insights. We treated your species with contempt because we could not accept that primitives might understand dangers that we had failed to recognize. We were wrong about everything, and now billions of innocent people are dying because of our arrogance. The crystal being's surface flickered with patterns of light that indicated deep emotional distress among his species. Humanity, if you are listening, we apologize for our blindness. We acknowledge that you tried to save us and we rejected your help. We understand that you have no obligation to rescue those who cast you out. But if there is any compassion left in your species, please consider that the children dying in this catastrophe had no part in the Council's decisions. They do not deserve to suffer for the mistakes of their leaders. Zethkar ended the transmission and sat down heavily in his crystal throne. He had ruled the galaxy for centuries, but now he could only wait for the end to come, 5,000 light-years away. Dr. Rachel Kim listened to the broadcast from the bridge of the human research vessel. Sanctuary. The ship was hidden in the outer reaches of the Magellanic Clouds, where the human fleet had established a temporary base while they watched the galaxy destroy itself. Around her, the other members of the Human Council sat in silence as they absorbed the speaker's words. That was the last transmission from Council space, reported Communications Officer Ben Torres. All the relay stations have gone dark. The Void Swarm appears to have consumed the entire communication network. Admiral Tony Martinez stood at the main tactical display studying reports from their long-range sensors. The red markers showing Void Swarm positions covered nearly a third of the galaxy and were spreading outward in all directions. Current projections show total galactic consumption within 18 months at this rate, he said quietly. Sir, what are your orders regarding the refugee ships that are trying to reach the galactic rim? Asked Captain Lisa Hayes. Martinez looked at the displays showing dozens of alien vessels fleeing toward the edge of known space. The ships were overcrowded with survivors from destroyed worlds, and most of them would run out of supplies long before they could reach safety. Continue monitoring their positions, but do not make contact. We are not ready to reveal our location. Dr. Alan Cooper activated his workstation and began reviewing the tactical data that human scientists had compiled during their months of preparation. Admiral, our analysis is complete. We have identified 17 different methods for stopping the Void Swarm's advance. The most effective approach would involve coordinated quantum disruption fields deployed from mobile platforms. We could halt their expansion and begin forcing them back toward the galactic rim. What would be the cost in human lives and resources? Asked Martinez. Minimal casualties if executed properly. Our technology is specifically designed to counter biomechanical entities that adapt to conventional weapons. The quantum disruption fields would prevent them from restructuring their molecular composition. They would be vulnerable to conventional firepower while the fields are active. Engineer Kate Sullivan looked up from her analysis station. We also have the industrial capacity to build the necessary equipment. The mobile construction platforms we evacuated from Council space could produce the quantum field generators within 6 months. We could have a functional defense network operational before the Void Swarm reaches the rim sectors. Martinez walked to the observation windows and stared out at the distant glow of the Milky Way galaxy. Somewhere in that spiral of light, trillions of intelligent beings were facing extinction because their leaders had been too proud to listen to warnings from a younger species. The irony was bitter. Humanity possessed exactly the tools needed to save galactic civilization, but they had been forced to develop those tools in secret after being cast out. Admiral, we need to make a decision soon, said Dr. Rachel Kim. The Void Swarm will reach the rim sectors in 4 months. If we are going to intervene, we need to begin preparations immediately. And if we choose not to intervene? Martinez asked. Then we watch the galaxy die and establish our own civilization in the Magellanic Clouds. We have the technology and resources to build a new human empire outside the Milky Way. We could thrive while the galaxy that rejected us becomes a dead zone. The bridge fell silent as everyone contemplated the choice before them. They could save the civilizations that had treated humanity with contempt, or they could let those civilizations face the consequences of their own arrogance. Either choice would define humanity's future and their place in the universe. Captain Torres, activate the quantum communication array, Martinez ordered finally. Send a message to all human vessels and colonies. Emergency council session in 12 hours. We are going to vote on whether to save the galaxy or let it burn. Ben Torres began transmitting the recall orders that would bring together representatives. from every human settlement in the Magellanic Clouds. Within hours, the descendants of Earth would gather to make the most important decision in their species' history. "What will you recommend to the Council, Admiral?" asked Dr. Kim. Martinez continued staring at the distant galaxy where his species had been born. "I will present both options and let democracy decide. That is what makes us different from the Council. We do not make decisions for others without their consent." As the human fleet prepared for the most crucial vote in their civilization's history, the Void Swarm continued its relentless advance through the dying galaxy. Every hour brought new reports of consumed worlds and extinguished stars. The clock was running out for billions of innocent lives. Soon humanity would have to choose between justice and mercy, between safety and sacrifice. The species that had been dismissed as primitive would decide the fate of the galaxy that had cast them out. The final chapter of the Galactic Council was ending, but the story of what would replace it was just beginning. Whether that replacement would be human compassion or cosmic silence remained to be seen. In the depths of space, two futures waited to be born.